Welcome to this edition of MDM's Quicktake. I'm Tom Gale. My guest today is James Dorn of the Dorn Group. James, welcome.
Thanks, Tom. It's great to be here.
Our past few conversations have focused on the different chapters in a profitability playbook for both manufacturers and distributors in market conditions that are transitioning from the stronger tailwinds of the past few years to lessening tailwinds, becalmed headwind conditions. It really depends on the day and the sectors that you're talking about. So we're in a new economic weather system. And I don't think anybody's predicting stormy seas, but there are challenging conditions to grow revenue and protect margins. So today, I'd like to talk about active category management as an important chapter in anybody's playbook. Give me a few of your thoughts around how you see active category management and what that means to you.
Great topic, Tom. And I'll just say this, we are in very interesting times right now. I mean, when you look at the backdrop, demand is slowing into Q4 and into next year. Price increases have leveled off, and we're hearing a lot of chatter from the field that end customers are doing more price shopping today than they have over the last 2 years. So this is creating some really interesting, I would say, mindsets when you look across the channel. When you look at what distributors are thinking today, they're largely focused on profitability. It's interesting because over the last 3 years, their business has grown 30+%. So they're managing much larger organizations and they're trying to manage to those historic profit levels, which is fascinating, right? Totally understand that. But when you look at what manufacturers, what their mindset is, they're heavily focused on growth. And it's interesting because over the last 3 years, their supply chains have been wrecked, right? So now they're at a point where they finally gotten up to capacity, gotten their supply chains fixed, and they've made investments in automation, and their mindset is growth. You have these opposing mindsets and goals from both manufacturers and distributors. Some may look at that and say, hey, we need to reconcile this and get on the same page. But we take the view of this is an ideal opportunity for category management teams to rise to the occasion because they can bridge the gap between profitability from distributors and growth from manufacturers. So when we say category management, we like to think of it as active category management, Tom, and that's really ensuring that distributors are resourcing their category management teams, that they've got continual focus and rigor around running a lot of the processes of category management, but layering in some of these modern programs and twists to actually drive growth and drive profitability for both distributors and for their supplier partners.
James, some people might say that the opposing goals of distributors and manufacturers that you outline right now is not really anything new. But what I'm hearing you say is that for those who figure out how to build this bridge that you describe, there's some really great opportunities to meet in the middle and define some mutual goals. So with that in mind, talk a little bit more about how you define active category management.
If you look at the why, let's take a look back, right? Historically, both sides, manufacturers and distributors, they promise each other a lot. They promise each other quality of field and inside sales support, the ability to bring each other business, the ability to price competitively or sell products competitively. But over the years, it's gotten far more complex, right? Nowadays, you have other things that are coming into view, like the product quality, the brand strength, the ability to expedite orders for end customers, to make joint calls, to do joint training. All of these are important to each side. But frankly, if you were to ask each side to rate how effective they've been at this, they're probably not giving each other a rating of an A+ for understanding each other's needs or how to drive more sales in a profitable manner. So active category management, Tom, you have to be able to survey, score, and present more data to win. It has to be more than, hey, we did $1 million last year, and now let's talk about T's and C's and rebates. So one way to do this, Tom, with active category management is let's look at improving manufacturer incentive programs. This is a very tangible scenario for distributors to try and improve what they're getting from manufacturers. Any improvement here goes straight to the bottom line. I'll share a story to illustrate this. We were recently at a industry conference, and one of our team members was invited to participate on a panel discussion. This was exciting because they injected a role-playing scenario into this panel discussion where two parties were given a fictitious background of, hey, you're a manufacturer or you're a distributor, and you have to come to the table and talk through this price increase scenario. One of our team members, John Gunderson, was invited to be the distributor in this discussion. And if you don't know John, he has a tremendous background in distribution. So he was the perfect guy for this discussion. But when the two of them got together, they shared their pleasantries of, hey, great, how's the family? But the moment they sat down, it was like the distributor, John in this case, went on the offense, went right into asking for an additional backside protection of a 2% rebate because the supplier had passed through a 7% price increase, but the market was only accepting 5% of that increase.
I'm just going to go out on a limb here and say that John probably enjoyed that role playing just a little bit too much.
Tom, it didn't get to a point of throwing chairs, but there was some tension in the air. And I don't think the audience really knew what to expect. They thought this would be like fluffy, scripted, but it was real and it felt real. I don't think most people have been in a situation to where they've been a fly on the wall in some of these conversations, especially when it gets to hard negotiation conversations. As the story went on, it became a little bit more apparent as from both sides, and there was a win-win. But
sure,
John was basically saying, you asked for 7%. We were able to get 5%. My bosses need me to correct the haircut we just took. And we need you and you need us. This has to be a win-win, but I need a rebate. In the end, John had to give up some SKUs on the shelf, did some creative things with, I think it was return goods authorizations, knowing that the manufacturer needed to bring back a win on their part. But in essence, John gave them more volume and more share in exchange for protection. And this is a great example of a win-win scenario. And this is exactly what we mean by active category management. You have to be able to have the teams, the processes, the rigor, and these conversations with your manufacturers to improve some of these programs behind the scenes to where you can manage to a higher level of profitability.
This is a period right now where that trench work is critical.
Yes, absolutely.
What's another example of active category management?
I think the next one, which actually came up a lot at this same conference, I'll call it a tiered supplier program. This is extremely timely right now because as demand decreases, it's getting harder for distributors to maintain historic profit that's captured through rebates. So one way to mitigate this risk in profitability is to funnel that demand to fewer suppliers, right? And make fewer suppliers more important to you and vice versa. Those suppliers partnering deeper with you to where you can still maintain some of these rebates. So in essence, the amount of suppliers that you're working with on the backside of rebates and T's and C's, you're still maintaining those programs. But this is usually structured with 3 tiers. At the top tier, you've got your strategic suppliers. Maybe below that, you've got preferred. And below that, you've got, we'll just call it other. But each one of these tiers is structured at a product category level. And you're working with different groups of suppliers to ensure that you've got the majority of that demand and volume going to your strategics, and you've got the best programs, growth programs and backside programs with those suppliers. At the end, the distributor is protecting a lot of their profitability, and manufacturers in this situation are gaining because more of that volume is coming into their brands and whatnot. if you can get your teams aligned around structuring these types of tiered supplier programs, that's another great use case for category management.
Final thoughts on, as we end the year here, what are some things that distributors can do with their manufacturer suppliers to capture everything they can in this final quarter?
It's simple, Tom, but simply capture every dollar that's available to them. When you've negotiated these agreements with your suppliers, ensure that you've got the process to capture every dollar earned in claims. We're at the end of the year now on the manufacturing side. They should be all over the distributors who are at 90, 95% projected goal. Create stock order to clear those goals, right? Get those orders in. If you're a distributor, it could be anywhere from, let's just say 20 to 90% of your profit is through a lot of these back end agreements that you have through suppliers. So make sure you're capturing every single dollar there. And you shouldn't sleep until you find ways to claim every dollar and reach new levels of agreements to maximize those SBAs. Definitely go after that aggressively here. Some distributors are better than others at this time, but it's definitely the time to do it and to improve in those areas.
Final piece I wanted to touch on with you today is we are co-hosting the MDM Dorn Data Analytics Virtual Summit on December 6th, 5+ hours of content. We've got some great speakers. Fastenal CFO Holden Lewis on their success formula as a high-performance company. That's one conversation. We've got more than a dozen panelists from a lot of great companies and very much looking forward to it.
I am really excited to see and hear and learn from everybody that's going to be at that event. So super excited about that. And the data analytics that ties into everything that we've been talking about here, Tom, including category management. Looking forward to seeing everybody at that event.
We'll have our major launch in this first week of November, so stay tuned. Thanks, James. Talk to you soon.